Oh, hey, buddy, it's your old pal Scott, and this is Let's Talk Tabletop. It is the question asked by all wargamers since the 80s. What is up with Games Workshop's release schedule? Why do they constantly release new things? Why do the prices keep going up and up? And why do they keep canceling my armies? I'm looking at you, Beasts of Chaos, and half of my Stormcast army. Why do they do what they do? Well, I think I may have the answer for it. And it came from an interview with one of the Games Workshop executives a couple years ago. Let's dive into it. We see it all the time from Games Workshop, from Warcry armies being released for Warcry, and then being included in Slaves to Darkness, which was awesome. And then being taken out of Slaves to Darkness, except for the Dark Oaths, and then kind of quietly they stop selling them. Yes, you might be able to get them online. A lot of times they're sold out, whatever, but they're focused on the new release. Why is Warhammer Underworlds treated the same way? Warhammer Underworlds will release a warband for their season, and now they just recently announced that all of the old warbands that you guys have been collecting and playing with are now kind of null and void because, oh, we're only focusing on the current warbands. That's a really, really nice way of saying, up yours, we've got your money, there's nothing you can do about it, and here, go buy some new product. It's the same reason why there are new editions. New editions for Warhammer are just like the latest Madden game or the latest FIFA game on console. It's not better, it's not improving, it's just different. It's different for the sake of different, so you have to buy a new book. And we see this across the board. I lost probably 3/4 of my Stormcast army. I'm even madder now than I was originally because they cut out all the Sacrosanct Chambers, which was about half my army. And I thought, well, and this is painted and based, mind you. And then I think, oh, well, at least I still have my original guys. No, I basically just have my Star Drake and I have my Liberators. They got rid of my Adjudicators, they got rid of my Retributors, which were a big part of my army. And all my Dracolines with my Evocators on, just whatever. So they've gutted about 70 to 80% of my Stormcast painted and based army. And of course, I can still use them in Mass Brutality because you use whatever models you want, miniature agnostic, and you stat them out the way you see fit using the rules. So luckily, my Stormcast and my Beasts of Chaos are not going to go to waste. I have another local guy that his Beasts of Chaos now is his official Mass Brutality army, and now he can stat them out however he likes, including adding new models and new units from Etsy, resin printed, or whatever other ranges that he wants, and that's pretty cool. But anyway, so here's the deal, essentially. It's just one of those topics that you see constantly on YouTube, and it's one of the topics I'm certain all of you have commented on at some point. And of course, you can explain it by it's a corporation, you can explain it by its greed, it's explained by several different things possibly. But there's one thing in retail that a lot of people may not be privy to, and I certainly didn't know until my interview with Alan Merritt, who was the executive in charge of IP for Games Workshop. I interviewed him for a podcast that I used to have, and something he said didn't really register with me until just recently. We were talking about something completely different than Games Workshop's release schedule. And he happened to say something to me that actually really clicked with me recently. And I was like, oh my gosh, he didn't outright say it, but extrapolating, this is exactly what he meant. And essentially what it is that whenever they release something, Games Workshop is going to make about 80% of their lifelong sales from that product in the first few months. And then from then on, they get the rest of the 20% of that product petered out over a decade, 2 decades, something like that. Now, of course, there can be bumps, like when they did the Decurion detachment in 7th edition, and all of a sudden everybody needed Necron Tomb Blades. Go figure, right? But, or like a super powerful codex comes out, and then all of a sudden there's more of a rush for one certain army. Sometimes that gives them a bump. But you can see why, if a corporation or any business needs a constant inflow of money, if you're going to, let's just say, make $1 million off of this new miniature kit, and in the first 6 months you make $800,000, you're not so much worried about the 200,000. You're not so worried about that because if you hurry up and release another new product, you'll hurry up and get that $800,000 from that, and you can just kind of let the 200,000 just slowly trickle out as you know it will. And that's why Games Workshop does what it does. They need that constant pump, like a pitcher pump, of money. So the more they pump on it, the more they get the flush of cash, but then it starts dying down and they pump it again and it dies down and pump it again. And that's how they work. That's how a lot of companies work. Obviously, some companies have more steady streams of income, but Games Workshop is solely product based and they need to constantly prime that pump. So by now, you now understand why Games Workshop does what it does. And I've never heard this covered elsewhere. I'm sure somebody at some place has mentioned this. But the initial release of most products has a big bump, and then it kind of peters out over time. And that's seems to be, from what I can read, that's pretty common for merchandise. And when things come out new, people like them, and then eventually they taper off. But that's exactly why your Underworld warbands are now defunct. That's why my Stormcast have been slaughtered officially. And that's why your Beasts of Chaos are slaughtered. And that's all of that. The Tomb Kings originally, before they came back for Old World, your Bretonnians, your Chaos Dwarves from Forge World, all of that stuff. It's because they got their 80%. And then it trickled down far enough that they're getting their 5%. And then at that point, it's not even worth taking up space on their shelf. They're just going to get rid of it. So let me know what you think about this. And I was very eye-opening for me. Like I said, he wasn't mentioning that specifically about their release schedule. But thinking about it years later, I'm like, wait a second. That explains their release schedule completely. Let me know your comments and your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for likes, subscribe, sharing, etc. Thank you to all my beautiful, sexy, good-smelling Patreon patrons. They are right here, and every single one of them I adore. I'll see you next week.